is presented by Botano. The game starts now. Here are your hosts, Brent Wallace, Jason York, and Bobby Ryan.
Good afternoon, everybody. Brent Wallace alongside Jason York and Bobby Ryan, who appears to be in a cave.
I'm at home. I'm in my kitchen island. So we have some rolling thunderstorms going on. I have power in every room but my office, and that is the only room in my house that doesn't get touched ever, except to go into the show. So I'm leaking sweat, but I found a way to get on.
You didn't put a Jenny in there, Bobby? You got no backup generator?
I don't get paid enough, man. We got to discuss this.
I would have thought the estate would have had one. I would have thought for sure.
Yeah, the sprawling estate, eh? Nope.
I can't believe after I don't know how many shows we've done, you still don't have a camera set up on that iPad, on that laptop. But anyway, I'll move on.
It's sitting on the top of it. It's sitting up there.
Yeah. We'll move on because Aaron Ward, who's played 935 games, including the playoffs, is waiting. He's got great stories. The fun fact about all this is he played with Yorkie at the beginning of his career. He played with Bobby near the end, and then he was my teammate at TSN for a while. So we've all have stories we can share with Wardo. So it should be good, and I don't want to waste any more time. We'll get to the sales stuff later. I don't want to keep Wardo. Today is the day that they're supposed to submit all the bids for final review. Also, my Mother's Day didn't go according to plan. We'll get to that. Plus, Yorkie's always on the golf course, and I want my money back from this pool because I picked everybody to be right, and I'm like at 37th out of 43 people, Yorkie.
I know. You're brutal. Just brutal. I think Mendez is going to win. He's got the worst. Did you see his team name?
No, I'm so disappointed.
Tremendous.
Oh God!
Just so corny, eh? Just so corny.
See, I went with the quote that you always say. I called my team on the PP because that's how you always refer to the power play.
The PP. Well, that's true.
Well done. I like that. All
right.
We lost another one.
We're not even 3 minutes into the show and Yorkie's down. So without further ado, let's get right to our partner reads, and then we'll move on to Wardo because I'm sure by now he's like, what have I got myself into? This show is always proudly presented by the leaders, basically, in online gambling. It is Botano. Go to botano.ca where the game starts now. Download the award-winning app. It's simple. It's easy to use. By the way, deposits and withdrawals are simple and easy as well. Like their customer service is fantastic. So same game parlays, all that stuff with Bet Builder plus the online casino. But Botano is simple and easy to use, and it has an award-winning app. So go to botano.ca where the game starts now. Bobby, you're next with whatever shows up.
Alrighty. As always, the show is very, very loosely held together to start here by Renfrew Pro, the Polyflex Clear Tape. You can find them online at renfrewpro.com. The tape just keeps the pads in a position with shin pad tape that will stay securely throughout the game. Renfrew Pro Polyflex shin pad tape, shin guard tape is made from moisture resistant poly something that is durable while still hand tearable. That's the important part. Hand tearable. You can find them on all major retailers. Polyethylene available. I guys with the grade 11 here. Available at all major retailers. And, yeah,
turn the lights on.
I know the next one. Get them. There you go. Feel the game. Follow them at Renfrew Pro. You can tag your teammates. You have unlimited entries for a free tape Friday. Share it to your story for 10 bonus entries. And Renfrew Pro, the one with the green core.
Yorkie.
Oh, my favorite, BEI, Bonnechere Excavating Contractors, helping to shape the Ottawa Valley. They're hiring right now. Don't forget to slow down in construction zones. They have a pretty good rec hockey team too, don't they, Wally? Aren't you the right D on? Aren't you the right D on that team?
Oh God, no! I'm a pure scorer.
Oh yeah. Laborers, mechanics, concrete structure team, quality control technicians, and they're hiring.
I'm the
BEI. Yeah. Oh, you're the captain. You can get a hold of them, 613-432-1120 or BonisherExcavating.com.
By the way, we do have one other new sponsor to add to the show. AG Greens, Athletic Greens, AG1 is, by the way, partnered up with our show. Just throwing that out there. Okay, gentlemen, without further ado, because I don't want to waste any more time, because his stories are legendary, as he is himself. And a Nepean Raider of all things, as is Jason York. Wardo, how are you? Welcome to the show. I don't know what you thought of the first 5 minutes. I hope you didn't hear it all.
Hey, the Bobby Ryan read of Renfrew tape is memorable right there. That was epic. I mean, I'm sure that was when they were the marketing group. They're like, Paulie, whatever would fit perfectly right here.
The worst part is I do that every week. It's just not getting
all
better.
right. Hey, you know what? No one listens if you say the same thing over and over. If you throw a little curveball in there once in a while, you catch people off guard and they pay attention. So, see, I even remember the word you created.
What was it?
Polly something.
Polly something. So that's all right.
That's what you put in
next
there.
week. I want that on. Yeah, next week I want that on there next week.
Wally, you might be the only one that knows this. Wardo picks up on this stuff. True or false, Wardo? You skipped at least 2 grades in school.
I did.
True fact?
I did. I was at Manor Park, skipped 2 grades there, and then ended up going to Queenie, Emily Carr, Gloucester High School, and got the hell out of high school in 1990. But yeah, I got through school relatively quickly. My father actually says it was because the teachers had enough of me. They just want to move me on so they get me out of there.
That's pretty good. By the way, you did play, and as we said, Nepean. You are an Ottawa native, despite the fact you're listed as being born in Windsor. Do people seem to forget you're an Ottawa guy?
No, actually, they forget that I was born in Windsor. But I mean, I spent most of my life there. My dad went up there with the Department of Justice, and we settled in Manor Park for the longest time, and then moved to Gloucester for hockey reasons. And then, stuck around. Now my family's since left. They all live out in Halifax, but I still consider Ottawa home.
All right. So we have lots of stories, including legendary.
Unfortunately, for the people listening, we do.
All right. So I'm going to begin because Yorkie was a teammate of yours, even in Adirondack, even before you played in the National Hockey League. You guys go way back. Do I even want to, the AHL stories are always much better. I don't even know. Should we start with the AHL stories?
Well,
wait, hold on. Before we do that, I have a new intro for story time. Alex, when you're ready,
let's see
please. Yeah, please play the video.
Hold on. Is that Wardo in the corner there in a recliner?
There are 2 pictures over my career that are off the ice that haunt me. Okay. There's that one because that was for a magazine. It was the Bostonians Best Dressed. And so when they chose me, they're like, hey, we're going to do a photo shoot. I'm like, cool. Go to the Four Seasons Hotel in Boston. They set me up and I'm in there. I'm like, are we allowed to swear on this?
Absolutely.
This shit's legit. I wheeled in there and they had makeup artists. And I mean, let's be honest, they had someone do hair. I'm like, no, I'm good. I think it only goes one way, so we don't need to do anything to it. So we went through it, and I'm like, that was a pretty fun experience. Then I saw those pictures. I was like, oh, good God. If anybody in another team gets a hold of that, I'm dead. And then there was another one. There's another one. They were doing movie posters for players for giveaways. And mine ended up being, instead of Rambo, it was Wardo. So originally they had me looking down the hosel of a stick. That looked cool, but they also took a picture because they thought, well, the gun safety people, I don't know exactly who at that time, might take offense to it. So I took another one looking like a total tool, my hand on my stick like this, with a camo bandana on, no context. So they went with that one.
That's tough.
I've had my neighbors dresses me every year in that costume for Halloween.
Oh man, I have to follow that up because it was probably around the same time we were playing together. Maybe, I don't know if you remember it, but I got a call, and probably because I was one of the few guys that stayed around Anaheim all year. and they said, "Hey, Details Magazine needs you to come up. They want to do a watch showcase." And I did the same thing, went through the same process, and I was like, "There's some cool shots out of there. Let's hope it is." And you open it up, and Details Magazine trends to be bought by something different. And I came in, and Getsy and Pears and a bunch of the boys had taped that picture up everywhere. I mean, I couldn't turn a corner at the Honda Center without seeing that thing. And I looked pretty damn good, but at the same time, I took a beating for it. I took an absolute beating for it.
See, if the guys these days, especially if you play for the Toronto Maple Leafs, you know how to take a good picture. You're an Instagram hero. So, I mean, like you know what looks good. You know how to pose. Us back in the day, we were taking instruction. And it was just bad advice.
I laugh all the time about that because my buddy will send me a picture. He's a huge Toronto Maple Leafs fan, lives there, grew up there. And I guess, I don't know if this is all over Ottawa, but he'll send me a picture of Mitch Marner walking in on Instagram in the fucking hat. And he's like, every time this guy wears a hat, we lose. And I don't know who's dressing those guys, but they need somebody new.
He had the
imagine back in the day with the mentality of our people, if there was a top 10 top dress list, I think guys would actually work harder not to be on it. Just because that guys like Sean Avery or your whoever your nemesis was around the league would pick up on that and utterly abuse you.
Okay, yeah. Wardo, you and Sean Avery had a little bit of a feud going, eh? Because
not really a feud. So he liked to talk to me a fair amount. So my introduction to Sean Avery was his first training camp. And we go into our first NHL preseason game, and he's a forward. So if you remember Columbus, there was a divider, but there was like a fair amount of space between where the defenseman door opened, like it opened up. So there's all kinds of space. Second period, the play's done. We're all looking over, and we hear this commotion, and Avery has gone. This is an exhibition game. Has gone into the Columbus bench to fight a kid that he used to know from the O. And it's on that side of not our side of the glass, that side of the glass. So we're like unheard of. Like, do we pile into the bench? Like, no one had ever encountered that. So I just say that it was common. I played with him in New York. I think New York was a tough environment. We had a lot of talent, but we just we're like Toronto, tons of talent in New York, just didn't get it done. And so I ended up going out pretty quick and being gone. And after that exit, Aver enjoyed chirping.
Hey, do you remember? I don't know if you remember this, Wardo. Here's like everybody chirps, right? You and I it was my last year. We're playing together in Boston. You and I are sitting on the bench, and Avery's doing his stuff. And you know this, Bobby. Most guys will skate by the bench and they'll say "fuck you" or "you suck." Avery skates right up to our bench, like basically, I don't know, a foot away from you and I, Wardo, looks you right in the eye and says, I think he said, "You're a fat fucker, and everybody on this team hates you. Everybody on this team hates you, and everyone's glad you're gone." And I look at Wardo, I'm like, well, I like him.
The cherry on the sundae to that one was.
We just started laughing at him because, it's bullshit, but how many guys have the balls to skate right up to a bench? Like within, like we could have punched him or something, but it's crazy, right?
Well, honestly, I got to tell you, he probably wasn't wrong because I had a confrontation with Yags in Tampa probably like 5 days before I got traded. And things are all wrong in New York. So I ended up getting shipped out. And part of heading out is you end up, stories come out about what, issues you had, whatever. The cherry on the sundae to that game, because I remember that game, where it's 5-5 and the puck is loose in the slot and I can end the game. I go to shoot the puck. It deflects off his stick. Turns out it's Yag's stick. Not only does he prevent me from winning the game, he follows through with a cross check, tags me right across the forehead, splits me for 6. And that was, and I'm like, I'm permanently like labeled by him. So yeah, that was an awesome game. I remember that game exactly.
I don't know why I remember that, but I'm like, man, like that's just a.
What I remember is we were so bad.
Dude.
When your number one center is Chistov, you know your team is bad.
Oh, jeez.
You remember
Bob,
that?
you didn't
Like,
play with, did you play with Cheese, Bobby? Or is he gone?
We
by the
crossed
time you
paths,
got
never
there?
played together. He was just
Oh,
a waste
man.
of space, though. so fucking good.
Right? But
So
but
good.
give a shit
Yeah.
meter off the charts. But
him and
man, was he
Pavel
funny?
Brendel
He was
are the
funny.
two players I played with over the course of my career that honestly, you'd have to go up, put your hand on their chest to see if there's a heartbeat. Like, I couldn't figure out if they were there or not.
Little stethoscope. Come here there. I want to check your heart here. What's going on over
You're
here?
still moving. It's a good sign. Well,
I like Cheese.
Yorkie-
He was a good dude.
Yorkie was with me in Adirondack, and so first year, correct? Were you there for you were there for Jan Golubowski, right?
Yes.
Goober. Okay.
Yep.
So Goober, Yorkie can attest to this. Goober was he was a first-round draft pick. He was coming over from Russia, and he was absolutely certain he was going to be with the team. So he comes in and listens to nobody from a veteran standpoint. We had Newell Brown, and Newell was a straight and narrow guy, and ran his locker room pretty straightforward. He had gotten out of the control that at this point that Newell took notice. So we tried to send a message to him, and I can't remember exactly. I think we cut the laces on his shoes. He knew it was me in some capacity. He took all my gear before a practice and threw it in the shower. So Newell, hearing this, said, "What are we doing?" And I'm like, "Now I got a coach coming in, like, what are we doing to fix this guy? I love this." So we had a practice in Glens Falls, and Glens Falls had the Hudson River flowing right out front of it. Small tributary, whatever. So Newell knows that I'm going to do something that day. So we set it up that I was going to take a puck off the ankle and I was going to get off early. I had gone to the hardware store, got fishing line, a cinder block, and a bobber. And Goober had just gotten a brand new Volvo. One of the first ones that had any electronics in the key. So I take a shot. Steve Maltese fakes it, hits me off the leg. Yep. I got off the ice. I tie his keys to the fishing line. I put the bobber up about 10 feet, and then I give another 20 feet of line and attach a cinder block, and I chuck it out in the Hudson. So we're all waiting, giggling, and for some reason this day, like usually he's out of there, not today. He's hanging out, and now he starts looking for his keys, and now we're scattering like we're like roaches. The lights come on, so now he starts asking like who's got it. So finally he figures out it had to be me. So he comes to me in his Novosibirsk accent and asked me what did I do with his car keys. So I put my arm around him, I walk him out front down the hill, and there's a bobber floating there. I said, "I hope they taught you to swim." So the problem is this is fast moving current, so the bobber's nowhere near the shore. So he has to get a ride in a cab to the local YMCA to get one of those hooks that you can pull people out of the water with to get the bobber to eventually get it. And I told him you had to be careful because I only bought 5-pound test.
Wow. I vaguely remember that. We had a few Russian guys. Remember Dmitry Motkov? That name ring a bell to you?
Motsy Potsy.
Listen, boys,
the best Russian I've ever played with in the minors, Lev Berdashevsky, you were there for, remember? He had summer teeth, summer here, summer there.
But I'll tell you, I don't know if you're guys, you know some guys complain about hazing and getting this Motkov. I have never seen a guy get every single day when he came to the rink, he just got abused. Like guys were all over him. Imagine coming to the rink every day and in practice there's guys trying to fight you and they're mad because you're there every day. Wardo, that poor guy, he ended up quitting a year later.
He did, and I think it was more or less because he had resigned himself the fact that he was not an AHL player, and everybody put their. I mean, listen, the AHL back then. I was joking with Wally.
Yeah,
he had nicknames. You go out on the ice, and you knew who not to fight based on who had a nickname, like Killer Kaminsky and Kerry the Shark Clark and Colonel Kern. Like you go out there and be like nickname, don't get near him. And that's how you played the game. That's how you maneuvered if you knew. You asked who had a nickname and you stayed away. But Motsy could give a flying rat's ass about being there, and he played that way, which was upsetting because we had some really talented teams down there.
Okay, so while you remember this name, Bobby, you would remember. Did you ever play against Denny Viel? Or were you out of the? I think you weren't in the league yet. So Denny Viel. Wally knows who Denny Viel is. We got to get him on the show. He's an absolute beauty.
At those who don't know, it's Drake Batherson's uncle.
Yeah, Drake Batherson's uncle.
The size of a tree trunk. Huge.
One of the toughest guys I ever
Looks
played
like
with in my life.
Looks like he chugs peanut butter.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yes.
No word of a lie. I was his D partner, and at the end of every game, with the last 2 minutes, whether we were winning or we were losing, he would discuss with our D coach Joe Batherson who he was going to go out and jump, and they would plan it. Last 2 minutes, he'd go grab somebody and beat the shit out of them. It was every single game. Denny would go nuts. Just a different time, eh, Wardo?
Oh, we had, like the Barry. We had Craig Martin, Barry Patonsi, Scourge Engelhart, Bobby Bugner, Pushy could. We had 7 guys who could handle it. That, yeah. And if you ever got caught out there, like so, Kevin Comiskey wanted to fight me because I ran around and hit people, and I learned quickly that you don't. Again, he had nickname Killer. So he's chasing me up the ice, forcing me to fight. So I decided that I was going to debilitate him before I fought him. So I took a baseball swing at his ankles to break him so that I knew he couldn't stand up when we started swinging. That's the American Hockey League right there.
Yes, sir.
Well, hey, Wally, you want to jump in and ask anything about hockey?
Listen, by the way, Wardo played in Anaheim, but he actually has an Anaheim record, if you will, and that is Aaron Ward scored the first goal in Honda Center history. He scored. Do I have the date here? We do have the goal. Alex, play the goal. It was his second in the National Hockey League.
Look at that high definition.
He's in there somewhere. Just wait for the guy. Whoever shoots the puck, that's Wardo.
What is that? Like Wardo.
There it is. So there you go. So Aaron Ward scored the first goal because that was Anaheim's very first NHL game, and a minute and a half in, roughly, Wardo scores on an assist from Sergei Fedorov and Ray Shepherd. Not a bad way to start your National Hockey League career.
No, that was so we started the night before on the road 2 nights before in Dallas, and I had been threatened within my life by Shane Churla, and so in this game I felt a little more comfortable playing. They didn't really have a ton of meat sticks out there, so if you look at the lineup back then, I mean, you had the Fedorovs, the Yzermans, all these highly talented guys, and it was a lot of fun to play there. But after that game, the most humbling experience after is we went into LA the next night, and Brian Murray pulled me out because he didn't want me exposed to Gretzky. And by exposed, I mean exposing them because they had Gretzky. Having me out there would have completely exposed them.
How did that conversation go?
With Brian?
Yeah.
Brian's pretty straightforward. He came up and basically told me they have this guy named Wayne Gretzky, and I'm not ready to face him yet, so I'm going to have a seat in the stands and watch. That was basically how it was presented to me.
That's pretty good.
Not worried about my feelings, nothing. I mean, we lost.
And by the way, you and Brian have a long history, but one of the things about you, I don't know what it's like when you join the National Hockey League and you're full of future Hall of Famers, right? So your first 3 goals in the National Hockey League are assisted by Sergei Fedorov, Steve Yzerman, and Igor Larionov. That's how you started your National Hockey League career.
And then it all went downhill from there. All downhill.
And then I think it was like Dallas Drake or somebody for game number 4.
Yeah. They got all 3 of them got together and they were like, hey, we got this guy in the back end that just absolutely has to feel the puck, so let's find him.
I can guarantee that conversation did not happen. In fact, I was telling Wally that the one time I was ever nervous in Ottawa, Larionov noticed and he came up to me. He's like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, why?" He goes, "I don't even want to pass you the puck. You're horrible." I was like, "What?" He's like, "The moment anybody gives you the puck tonight, you're like throwing it up the glass." He wasn't lying. Like I don't know if you've ever experienced this, Bobby. Probably not because you had hands. Yorkie, you had hands. But as a D, it's just not your night. You're not feeling it. And you know that it's going to end up in the back of your net. That was one of them. And mine was from nerves. But Iggy was a very perceptive and smart man and didn't hide the truth nor shy away from it.
Did you hate playing in Ottawa?
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
What's
So
that?
I was going to say,
Did you?
I never had to worry about the hands, but the slippers didn't move very well for me on most nights. So,
The slippers.
I just did a radio interview in Montreal. We're talking about, someone asked me a question. Who was the guy you hated playing against in practice the most? And it was actually, I said you, because the worst part would be that I might be a little hungover at the time in Anaheim because I was living on the beach and I only had 3 months and I was paying a homeless guy every single day $50 to put ice in the cooler and fill it with beer and $50 for his time. So I might have been coming to the 10:30 practices a little off my game. And when Randy would put us in 3-on-3, Bobby would stick it right up my ass. He would literally put it between my legs 3 times and corkscrew me into the ground, to the point where I literally, I grabbed Lubomir Visnovsky one time. We were supposed to go against you, and I'm like, let the young guys take him. Like, I literally was like, no. So, kudos to you. You chased me out of the game. Chase me.
You know what, though? Young guys chase me out. It's the way it goes, pal.
That's how she goes.
But I appreciate the compliment, though. I'll take that.
It's organic because I said it like 3 weeks ago on a radio show.
Nice.
You brought up playing in Ottawa, being an Ottawa guy. You played 21 games here. Your first game was a tie. Second game, you picked up an assist. You never had another point in your final 19 games in Ottawa. Was it just a place you did not want to play?
In a weird way, and I can't put my finger on it, it was nerve-wracking. Like, so rarely did I ever go anywhere where, like, my parents came to Montreal, but I don't know why. There was a nerve level of playing in front of maybe people you went to high school with or people who saw you grow up and you wanted to perform, and it never came easy. So when I was in Ottawa, I probably count on one hand, like, games I stepped out of and felt good about.
Did you have to put money on the board each time?
Oh, God, yes. That was the other thing. Like, so you guys knew, like, you try and find any connection to anything that would make a guy put more money up there. So he got traded from here. He got drafted by here. Guys would know that, like, so at the time Brian Murray was my guy. He traded you. He didn't trade me. Detroit traded me, but they still tried to use that as like an excuse for yeah. So yeah, Ottawa, I had at least 4 figures on the board every time I went to Ottawa.
So Wally, we should prerequisites for people listening. A lot of people don't know this. Before every game, there's a huge stat pack that comes out about each and every player and about your bio. And there are literally there's always 1 or 2 guys on every team that combs through this thing for anything they can find on somebody to make the guy put money on the board. There's always 1 or 2 guys on every team, and they'll bring it up in front of the team to put pressure on you. So you got to put money up.
That's what I won't name names, but every time I saw them pick up the stack and head towards the shitter, I'm like, oh, something's coming. Something's coming.
Something's coming.
You had to put money on the board.
They need to.
You had to put money on the board if you had nothing. It was not even related to the National Hockey. Oh, he played for the Ottawa 67s. You got to put money in. No, you don't. But you got shamed into it. There was always every team had a used car salesman that can manipulate into either putting money up or raising it.
Yeah. Is the last thing you want to hear then? Do you want to hear a reporter go, did you know you scored 32 goals and member of the Ottawa Senators in this building or something?
The worst thing a guy can say is you just signed a new contract. Because when you sign a new contract on every team I was on, big dollars. It was not just a meal. You had to do a meal. You had to put money in the board.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Yeah.
So did you want to get traded? Did you ever want to play for the Sens in your career?
I think at a time, like Yorkie knew this from being in Detroit, there was such a backlog of talent in Detroit. At times you'd look up the list of like the hierarchy and you realize you're never going to climb your way up there. And you thought there'd be other opportunities elsewhere. I actually thought I was coming to Ottawa the year I got traded to Anaheim. Ottawa was one of the teams that was rumored at the time. So would I have loved to play here? Yeah. I mean, especially to get a taste of playing in your hometown, I think everybody would love for that to happen, right? To play in front of your family, where it's an opportunity. They're going to be around you. They're going to experience what you experienced in the National Hockey League. There's a sharing component element to that you can't. It doesn't translate when you're in another town.
Yeah.
Yep. Fair
Was
enough.
there? I actually have to ask. Was there ever a trade, Yorkie, where you went, Wardo, excuse me, where you went from one team to the other and the city changed drastically? Because I remember for me, like, I didn't know much about Ottawa. I had I'd played one game there in my career, and I'm sitting in my place in Victor, Idaho, getting ready to fly back to my place in Newport Beach, sit on the sand a few days, whatever. And they're like, hey, we just traded you to Ottawa. And I was like, what? Anywhere else, really? But I had no idea. It ended up being one of the best things that ever happened to me. But I was like, come on. But it's so, because guys have that feeling all the time. I was wondering if there's one trade or two trades even that for you happened and you were like, this is brutal.
So it was going from Detroit to Carolina, because and I'm gonna speak ignorantly as I describe what I thought and then change what it is. So in 2001 I got traded from Detroit to Carolina. The only thing I knew was NASCAR, college basketball, and whatever stereotype was laid on this town. When I was coming across the Virginia border into North Carolina and I was kind of in the mountains, there was one of those flashing signs for one of the local saloons that had female oil wrestling. And I was like, good God, what the hell have I gotten myself into? Turns out you get to Carolina and you're part of the process of the growing the game, 2001 through when I've been here. But it's highly educated area, very like tech savvy. It's a fantastic spot. You got the ocean an hour and 50 minutes that way. Mountains hour 50 minutes that way. So it was shocking at first, but I definitely warmed up quickly. But my opinion was the same. Like, I'm going to the abyss. Like, what the hell is happening?
Yeah.
And remember, we used to play in Greensboro prior to that, so we didn't really have an experience too much about like what was happening in Carolina. I got 1 year of playing one time at PNC.
Oh wow,
it's a beautiful area. I will say that.
It is.
I've covered the Cup Final with you there in afterwards. Anyway, we'll move on to that. So you're in Detroit. You had a couple of head coaches, but one was Scotty Bowman, who's known to be a bit of a taskmaster. What was your relationship like with Scotty?
Not good, not particularly good. So Scotty had a fraternity of players over the course of his career that basically it was an honor to be in his doghouse, if you put it that way. So I really this came to fruition when I was in Montreal one time. My family had come up there. I'm taking warm up and Scotty just decides on a whim he's going to scratch me. And I, nothing I can do about it. I go back into the hallway. I'm going to do my ride, which basically is to wait till the training staff is gone and I get off the bike. And then as I'm walking across, Steve Shutt's coming by me and he goes, chosen one? I have no idea. First, I'm like, I didn't really recognize Steve Shutt in the moment. Been a little older. And he's like, chosen one. And I'm like, I'm not sure. He goes, Steve Shutt. I'm like, oh, Steve Shutt. Yeah. He goes, you're in the doghouse? I go, I am. So we started exchanging stories for like 50 hour and a half. The period's ending. Steve Shutt and I are still talking, telling Scotty stories and what happened to him and guys back then. But yeah, you never really know the truth. You never really know why Scotty has it in for you. The worst part is it leaves it so vague that it allows media and fan bases to guess at why that's the case. But the truth is he capitalizes on making guys feel uncomfortable. And the easiest way to do this is to utilize young guys as the test bed. We are the litmus test to keeping his hand on the pulse and never making anybody feel comfortable. Right. So Steve Yzerman didn't feel comfortable for the longest time because Scotty was on him. But the young guys, we were in line because if I don't want that type of treatment. And that's honestly a little bit of Randy Carlyle kind of came through here, that RC name again. A little bit of that coaching style came through in Randy.
Wardo, I think I want Scotty.
I know.
I think before we move on to Carlyle, because I know you got some great Carlyle stories.
Oh no, we got to do Scotty because I know I got to tell the story that.
I'll tell you one. I'll tell you one that just kind of bookends what you're talking about. I was there before you. You were still down in Adirondack, but I got called up, and you guys know the old bag skate drill where you go, everyone's on the goal line. You go, goal line to blue line, back to the goal line, red line, back to the goal line, far ends, and you go in like a group of 4. Scotty yells at me to go with every single group. So I'm doing this drill with everybody. And I'm dying, and the guys, and all the guys are cheering me, come on, Yorkie, keep going. And I'm like, why am I doing this? I don't know why I'm doing this. The practice ends, I'm exhausted. I barely make it off the ice. The reporters are waiting for me. They're like, Jason, did you miss curfew? No. Are you in the doghouse? I don't know. Did you do something wrong? No. And to this day, I still don't know what I did. It was just that day he decided to, as Wardo says, just pick on a young guy for no reason. Still don't know. Got to ask him next time I see him.
So we can hop right into the story because I know this is where we should go. 96,
Did you ever piss off Scotty Bowman?
Yes. Well, it's not piss him off. It involves the same root word. So 96, 97, we win the Stanley Cup. And my partner at the time is Bob Rouse. I feel pretty good about it. I feel like, okay, maybe I'm going to get my way out of this. Going to the next season, 97, 98, we are in Calgary, and I decide I'm going to pad my stats, and I literally drop to block a shot in the neutral zone from Jonas Höglund. Break my... Listen, you got to get your stats any way you can when you're a defensive defenseman.
You got to pad up. You got to pad
up.
There's
like 3 seconds left in the period. I'm by the Calgary bench. I drop. He nails me off my foot and breaks the bone right in half. Scotty's irate with me. So we come back. I get rehabbed. We go into the playoffs, and Scotty makes the entire team stay in a hotel. I don't play one single game of the playoffs after playing every single game of the playoffs the year before except for one. So we'll just leave that one there. I've gone through this experience with Scotty. I know what it's like to not play in the playoffs. So 98, 99, 2001 happens. We're going to the playoffs. We're playing, and the first round starts, and here I am again. I'm not playing. So we fast forward to a Sunday game on Fox, and it's a 1:00 start. And we're staying in the hotel, and Scotty tells me, you got to go to the rink, and you're going to do a bag skate with Al Sabaka, the Zamboni driver, at 7 a.m. He's going to watch you do the bag skate. So I'm like, fuck this. Because I've been in the league long. I'm almost at, I'm coming up on 8-9 years. Like, okay, whatever. I'm going to do the bag skate, but I'm going to do it pickled. So I roll up to the Ritz-Carlton, $20 to the valet. He throws my key in. He keeps it 20. And I go downtown Detroit, and I get liquored. Okay, so my car, it's parked in the players' parking in Detroit. So it's behind a fence, and there's only one entrance into the arena. It's this canopy. I sleep. I set my old Nokia phone. I get my 6:30 wake-up call. Goes off, and I get up, and I get out of my car, and I'm like, going to the door. I open the door, and I go to open the door. It's locked. I'm like, Al's supposed to have unlocked this. I'm supposed to be in there. And I'm sitting there, and I'm like, I've been drinking for 12 hours. I got to pee. I look over, and Scotty had received a Mercedes from the team, from the Illich family for his 98 Stanley Cup win. I'm like, no better time than now. So I open the gas tank, and I pee. I unload all of it right in his gas tank. Okay. So this is going to correlate with Brian Murray. We lose in overtime. Adam Dedmar scores for the Kings. Scotty makes this mandate in the locker room and stands up there and says, anybody not on the flight by 5:30, you're buying a regular ticket. 5:30 happens. Everybody's on the flight. No Scotty. 5:45, no Scotty. 6 o'clock, no Scotty. Scotty used to have the security guard he hung out with. Finally, wheels right up to the tarmac and gets out. It's like 6:20. Scotty's car won't start. I pissed so much in the gas tank that I purified the gasoline. So it started, but then it crashed out. So you had to get a ride to the deal. So here's what's good about this story. So Scotty and I had our issues. If you know Detroit back in the day, there was like an empire build happening, right? Everybody's struggling for power. There was Scotty Bowman, there was Brian Murray, and there's Jimmy Devellano. And I don't think any of them really, they coexisted. They didn't get along. So Brian ends up getting fired from Detroit. Scotty sticks around. Jimmy D sticks around. 2006, Brian's in Ottawa. So We come out. We just got punted by Ottawa, but we killed by at least 3 or 4 goals. I go out to meet my family, and over my shoulder, I see my family's face kind of go like this. And I feel this hand on my shoulder, and he goes, I look over, and it's Brian. And Brian whispers in my ear, goes, and again, I'm going to say I'm friends, so I'm not mocking him. He goes, pissing in Scotty's gas tank is fucking spectacular. And I'm like, so now, here's the best part. I have no idea how Brian Murray knows that I did this. Now I got to explain to my parents why I'm pissing in a Hall of Famer's car. And so, he's like laughing his ass, like just giggling his ass off. So that one was in some way, I almost felt like I did something nice for Brian in light of the fact that he was let go of the organization. And how I found out Brian was actually fired from Detroit, I was on my honeymoon in St. Lucia, and Jeff Daniels, who's now the assistant coach, was standing beside me on a boat cruise talking to his wife about Brian Murray got fired. I was like, what? So that's yeah. I have a loyalty to Brian. Brian and I, like, I've known Brian. Brian tried to get me out of Detroit. I've been up to Shawville, sat down, had coffee with him, shot the breeze. He and I go way back. Yeah. So, how
did you know,
Brian,
Wardo? How did you
finish
know?
up? What's that?
How did Brian know you pissed in the tank?
So I never found out. But here's the kicker. So Brian and I have had interactions. So prior to that, and again, I'm not mocking him. I got to keep qualifying this because I'm not mocking a speech impediment. Brian and I used to go back and forth over it. He'd give me the business about it. So in 1993, had a knee injury, got called up to Detroit not to play. It wasn't a call up. I just had to go see the doctors. So Detroit's playing Quebec in Joe Louis Arena. And it's towards the end of the season. The reason I'm up there to see the doctors because we're about to go into playoffs and they haven't really addressed my knee, whatever. So I'm on a flight. I land at like 4 o'clock. I'm told I got to be in the rink. So I go to the rink. I sit and talk to the doctors. I'm there inside the locker room. They come off the first period, and I guess Quebec has just run us around. So beside me in walks Probert into the medical room. And Yorkie, you know this, so this matters. So the locker room at the time is rectangular. And in the middle of the exits, there's 2 exits here. This one goes to the weight room. I never went that way ever over the course of my career. This one went out to the ice, coach's locker room, assistant coach's medical. So I walk out of the medical and I'm standing in the doorway and Proby's in front of me and he kicks, I think, Chris Osgood out of his seat and sits down in this bar stool. Brian Murray's sitting in the middle of it and he's irate. Like, to the point he can't even get things out. He's like losing his mind. He's looking at this little piece of paper in his hand and he's going over the guys in Quebec that are running us around currently. And like, he starts going, who the fuck are these guys? So he starts naming off these guys and then he pauses and I see his mouth move. And I'm going to say again, I'm like 22, 23. And I'm like, I got to behave myself. He gets to the name Curtis Leschyshyn. And when he says it, Proby, who's now sitting on a chair, falls off the chair. So when Brian Murray turns around to see what's going on, Proby, who's standing beside Proby? Me. So now I'm like, Brian looks at me, looks at Proby, looks at me. I'm like, oh my God, my career's over. I just barely got to the National Hockey League. So that one. So I always tell you that Brian made fun of it. I meet him in like 2001 in Anaheim, and he's coaching. I think he's coaching at the time in Anaheim. And he had run a practice, and he got off the ice in practice to observe practice, led his assistant coaches. So he and I are sitting in the stands talking, and he goes, not a bad team. And I go, Anaheim? He goes, yeah, nothing too tough out there. I go, Barnett's tough. He goes, no names. There's no Leschyshyn. I was like, oh my God. He remembered it. 8 years later. 8 years later. So, final Brian Murray. I'm working for TSN, and we're I think the All-Star game. Wally's there, and we have this presence at the All-Star game. We have our desk there, and we're doing, I guess, probably rehearsals or I don't know, early. And Brian's on the concourse, and he catches me, and he starts talking to me, and then all of a sudden he gets dead ass serious. He goes, "So you want to do it to my face?" I was like, what? And now I'm like, I got a pit in my stomach, like, oh my God. He goes, I hear you do a really good rendition of me. Boys, I started to sweat. I was in a suit, and I think my socks it was either pee or sweat, one of the two. Like my feet were soaked. Like I just started to sweat all the way up. He's calling me out. Like, but again, like I think we're friends, but the way, like he can sometimes just turn it off and be dead serious. He says, do it for me. I'm like, no. He goes, I've heard it's really good. Do it for me. And he's provoking me. So I'm like, shit. So finally, I'm like, how am I going to get myself out of here? So how I end it with him, he goes, just do it. I said, sorry, Clarence. Clarence is his middle name. Little known fact about Brian, Clarence is his middle name. So I dropped that on him, and thank God he smiled and started laughing. He goes, you cocksucker, that's pretty fucking good.
Okay. Wardo.
Okay. So again, qualifier. I'm not making fun of him. He was a friend.
No.
We had these jokes between us.
Okay, Wardo. But here's where does Scotty Bowman to this day know that you pissed in his gas tank?
So I came clean I do a daily radio show at Montreal at 5 p.m. and I came clean there and I said it. So it did make its way around. At the 25th anniversary of the Stanley Cup Finals, Kenny Holland saw me in the suite and said, you got to tell me about pissing in Scotty's gas tank. And Scotty was like 20 feet over there. So I was like, all right, can we just slide a little bit over this way? So I don't know if Scotty knows. I imagine by now someone must have told him. I mean, let's be honest about hockey. Every detail about everybody's life leaks. It's the worst high school ever.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. That's
so
good.
So
where do we
and
go
Bobby
from there?
want to discuss? Well, I was going to get to
where do
Randy
we
Carlyle.
go?
Anaheim was great,
So-
wasn't it? But I don't like. Did you do anything great there except run new?
To Randy?
On the bicycle.
Tell the
Randy?
Carlyle
wait.
story. That's a good.
Wait,
Carlyle story is
There's
good.
one more Brian Murray story. And it's got to do with Barnett. Does it not? About practice?
No, that was it because
Oh.
I didn't give the full details. He was sitting up talking to me, and I had come. How he knew I was there, and I think why he came off the ice in practice is so we could talk. But I was standing in the visitors' bench. Bobby, you guys know this. Like he had been starting practice, and he was gathering all the pucks by the blue line on the far blue line of the visitors' bench, and he's, I wouldn't say Brian's the most talented hockey player, so he's struggling to get them together. He's moving and moving and moving. He's got in a perfect pile. Barnett comes right through and fucking blows them all up. Pucks everywhere. Brian loses his shit and fucking whistle flying, calls everybody in. And he's like, his face turns beet red. He goes, you guys are a bunch of fucking baboons. And as he says it, again, the group parts, and he's looking right at me, and then he yells at me, what do you want? And I was like, and then I was on the bench, like, I was like getting a kid scolded. I fucking ran back into the locker room like I was in trouble. Then he had someone come into our locker room and say, hey, meet me up top. So I met up and I sat and met him up top. I love him.
Yes, I just remember that. Yes, there was I was going to say, I sat, there's a few times on the road you get to sit with the GMs and have a drink or whatever. The stories were fantastic that he would tell. So how's Randy Carlyle compare? And I know I set you up because I know that you and Bobby probably have familiar feelings towards him.
Bobby?
Yeah,
yeah, go ahead. I want to hear your level of loathing.
Oh man. Somewhere in the sevens to high sevens to low eights. As I got a little older, I was like, I think he was just trying to get, but he made so many examples of me. And he did it differently. He would always play me because he felt like he had to, right? Because our line was pretty good. But the call-in meetings and the extra skates. Remember when he did? Because I was the youngest guy by quite a bit. And guys would all be hung over at practice, and he would do an age skate. And he would do, if you're over 35 once, and then over 30 twice, whatever. And he would get down to just above Getzlaf, Perry, and I. And he would say 26 and a half. And then, Paris would be like 4 or 5. And he's like, I'm only 5 months. I'm a month away. And like, Randy must have known this shit to the day and the minute, because we sat there and we would bag skate for an extra 20 minutes. There were times when Prongs was showered out of the building while we were still going. And we were playing 22 minutes a night some of these nights, right? But I knew he had won with Gets and Pairs, right? He had won a cup, and I was the new guy on that line. So it was always me who was immediately the go-to guy, right? Gets would make a mistake, and I'd be like, he'd be motherfucking Bobby on the bench immediately, and then sit me a shift. And then those guys would go right back out, and I would sit there and I'm like, I didn't even turn that fucking puck over. That wasn't me. So I was at wit's end with them, and I want you to tell the story about how you obliterated them in the air, so I can tell you how that we had 17 guys lining up to get out of there, and I was 1, 2, and 3 in position for trade requests.
So we in Carolina, we were so god awful in 09-10 that we had 7 guys traded in under an hour, right? So it was, they were calling us off all at once, and I get in, and Jim Rutherford says to me, he's like, "You're going to Anaheim." I'm like, "I'm going to Anaheim. I'm." Here's the truth. I don't know anything about Anaheim at this point. I've played in the East for a very long time. Not much can be done in terms of updating yourself. So I'm going to rely on people that have played there. And Doug Waite gives me a text. He's like, "Good fucking luck." Exactly like that. I'm like, "How's that mean?" One of the things I learned over the course of my career is always take care of your equipment guy. So Sluggo, right? Sluggo is our equipment guy?
Yeah.
So
one of the best.
When I got there, the Carolina guys had already called Sluggo and says, he'll give you his road money. Just take care of him. He'll take care of you. So Sluggo was awesome. Same with our equipment guy. Our medical guy. I took care of those guys. So I get there. I'm staying alone in a hotel. It's St. Paddy's Day. We have a game, and I am pulling out 65 cc's of liquid out of my knee every two games. I already know I'm going to retire at this point. I've talked to Ray Ferraro when we were in Vancouver about retirement. I'm dead set. So Sluggo walks in, and he's got a big bottle of Jameson. Man, I mean, and so apparently the guys in Carolina said, "Give him Jameson, he'll do anything for you." So I'm like, "Oh, that's awesome." So I'm sitting on ice bags on my knee. They pull up a Gatorade with a shredded ice. I'm in my glory. In comes half-cocked Randy Carlyle. This is easily hour and 15, hour and a half, and I'm still sitting on the table in the medical room. Randy's giving a guide, like a guided tour, with his. I'll ask Bobby. Bobby, what was his drink of choice?
I can't remember. Oh, I didn't know. I definitely didn't know him well enough.
He loved his white wine.
He did. He loved wine, but yeah, I was always on one end of the room when he was on another. That's for sure.
He walks through the door, double fisting white wine, looks at me, and sees the fucking bottle stored underneath, looks in my cup, and fucking keeps walking. Okay, and I'm in underwear. He's got like 7 people in tow. His prerogative. Next day, he's talking about those personal meetings. So I get someone's like, "Hey, you got to go to Randy's office. Got to go to Randy's office." I'm like, "All right." I sit down. He goes, "I don't know. I don't even know why you're fucking here. I didn't even fucking want you." I was like, "Oh, that's good to know." He goes, "You're all the fucking same." I go, "All." So I'm like, not really talking. I'm giving him his respect. You, Matthew Schneider, Doug Waite, Todd Bertuzzi. He starts listing off these guys, and I'm like, fuck, those are pretty good guys. I think I'm high esteem right now. Like, they fucking had some good stats over the careers. This guy really overvalues me. So I walk out of the room, and in comes Getsy, and he's like, "What happened there?" He goes, "I don't know. Randy fucking's pissed at me over, like, I had fucking Jameson late night, but he said just like fucking Schneider, Bertuzzi, Dougie Waite." And I go, "That's pretty good names." He goes, "You're fucking done." I go, "What do you mean?" He goes, "He hated them.
Yeah.
Fucking hated them.
Yeah.
Hated them. You're gone." So sure enough, week later, family comes out. We're playing in LA on a Sunday afternoon. Doesn't tell me I'm scratched. My family leaves Anaheim to take my 3 kids, go to the Staples Center to watch the game. We pull up on the bus. Randy tells me I'm fucking scratched. And my family had just come from Anaheim with fucking 3 kids under the age of 6. So at that point, I was done. So going back to TSN, when I started, I had established enough friendship level relationships with guys in Anaheim that when it started to go south, I started to hear a little bit. So TSN was like, anybody want to kind of address the situation in Anaheim? Dude, he didn't even get done asking Steve Dryden. My hand was up. I'm like, how hard can I go? And I literally, my first line was, Randy Carlyle sucks the fucking fun out of the game. Like I obliterated, lost the room, doesn't know how to coach anymore. I killed him. And honestly, like I didn't think that was technically fair being in media and he wasn't, but God, did that feel good. In the way that the way Comey wants to run Babcock over, I got the opportunity and just absolutely hammered.
He took it.
Oh God,
man! I got to tell you, he hated Matthew Schneider with a passion, and it just came over time. But we were getting ready. Remember our horrific practice rink where it was cold and I forget
the half circle.
Called.
The half circle.
Oh. Yeah. Just horrible. Every time you saw it, you were like, we're going to get dressed in a dungeon, whatever. One day it's 10:03 and practice starts at 10:30 and our power play had been struggling. And I'm in there, as a young guy, putting my pants on. I'm ready to go on at 9:15, basically. And Randy and Dave Ferrish come walking through the room. And Schneid's is walking out of the room to go get a bottle of water, whatever he was doing. And Randy says, hey, Schneid's, we got 27 minutes till practice. How quickly can you guys get on the ice? And Schneid's goes, 27 and a half, and just kept walking. Just didn't even flinch, didn't say a thing. Just 27 and a half. It was fucking incredible. But Randy just shook his head and walked away because I think Randy was, I don't know if it was his last year or not, but he was pretty defeated with a couple of those names. Like he hated Dougie Weight. And at one point I was playing on a line with Doug and Todd. And that was the safest I ever felt under Randy's watch because I knew he disliked them so much that he would go to them first. And so I was protected by Randy's hatred of two other people.
My favorite about Randy too was he would linger in the weight room on the bike and he wasn't fooling anybody because those pedals weren't moving fast enough to actually accomplish anything. He would just sit and eye fuck you. And that was the thing that bugged me the most is, the easiest way to have an out of shape team is be in the area where you're supposed to be working out as a coach. Like, go.
Yeah. Yep. Well, you know what? A lot of that he wanted to make sure because back then, and you don't have to do it nearly as much. I don't know what teams do, but we had to weigh in every single day and body fat for certain guys all the time. And he wanted to make sure, his big five were in there weighing in every day. And I was always in that club. I was whittled down the bones because I was scared to eat because Randy checked my weight every day. But remember how he would put the towel over the bike and just hawk loogies into the towel?
Yes.
It was the most disgusting. He would hawk loogies into the towel and then pedal for a minute, stop, and just look around. And I would walk in there and go hide behind the corner where he couldn't see me. And I just whip out my phone and text until practice. I'm not doing anything while you're there.
When I first heard that, I thought he was like in cardiac arrest. Like I had never encountered that. He had the towel over. Yeah, it was. He didn't hide it. Like it was a full. You're going deep. You're back in the rear ends of the cranium, searching for that snot.
Oh God!
When Bobby says the big five, he doesn't mean the most talented five.
Right? Three of the most talented for sure, though.
Wardo,
there's certainly
I know
three of us. Yeah, we all happen to play together.
Wardo, I've kept you longer. Are you okay, or do you need to get off?
I'm good.
I just want to make sure. Okay. So I want to skip to Carolina because I want to, they're in the Eastern Conference Final again. I know you, live there, and B, cover them. But I want to go back to your Stanley Cup. So first of all, this might be one of the biggest goals that you've ever scored. And in it, by the way, if you listen to Doc Emmerich, he does say the Windsor native, Aaron Ward, but
which
is why I always brought up. Yeah. So this is Game 7. You're playing Edmonton. Alex, you can run this video if you want. Oh, more high def. You open the scoring.
Takes a while.
Right.
Watch this. He's coming down the boards. He's looking for a pass off right there. Nope.
Mark Recchi to the booming shot of Aaron Ward. What does that goal feel like in Game 7 of a Stanley Cup Final?
So funny thing about that is that year was probably my most enjoyable and best year of my career, and it was Laviolette. I don't know if you guys have ever played for him, but I think he's the original players coach. Like, can get you to believe things about yourself that you wouldn't imagine you could. And like, he honestly, the 6 guys there. Okay, here's your test. Can you name me 4 of the defensemen that played in that team that year?
Wesley, Hedekin, Ward.
I don't count.
Who don't we count?
Was on that team? Hedekin,
Okay, maybe
Wesley.
I do count if you can't get a 4th. Okay, so I'll put you under misery. Frantisek Caberly.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Commodore Hedekin, Wesley, Nicky Wallin, and myself. And here's the crazy part. Tever was our 7th team. Tever was the coolest breeze I've ever played with. Like, fuck me. Like, dude, that guy was about the lifestyle, and that was his thing. Like, rolling in the Sadies, had on before like calf tight pants were in style. He was sporting them. So that group of defensemen that year were such a motley crew of guys, but Laviolette mandated that we all had to jump up in the play. No matter what kind of plug you were on the back end, you still had to be up and play offensively. And it was amazing that as you adopted that mentality, how much fun hockey was to play when you got to touch the puck. And I think that was one of the recipes for why that team was so good, was that we all kind of played the same system. Nobody was overly talented. We had some talented young guys. We had some talented veterans, but we had no superstars.
Who were the assistant coaches on that team, Wardo?
McCarthy and Jeff Daniels.
Okay.
Kevin McCarthy, who was with Laviolette the whole time, and Jeff Daniels.
Gotcha.
Okay.
And Jeff was actually, when Laviolette came in pre-lockout, Jake was actually a player. He was a forward in our team.
That's right. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And of course, Doug Waite played on that team. I just wanted to throw that back out there. Okay, so tell me what it's like to score in Game 7 of a Stanley Cup Final.
Honestly, for me, it was probably the greatest relief, because I'll tell you, on the way there, like, I don't puke before games, and I had to pull over on I-40, get out of my car, pull the side of the road before Game 7 and let it fly. And that had never happened to me. And that mentally for me was like, what the hell is happening? Like, I'm 34, 33. Like, come on, I got to be over this by now. But that was the most pressure I'd ever felt. And I don't know if I was putting it on myself, but to have that happen, it just all of a sudden got my train on the tracks, which was a great feel. And, you know, that's 2 teams that didn't necessarily belong there, but put up some great efforts to get there. So it was an enjoyable game. But to score, I didn't have a ton of things I did over the course of my career that were all notable. So that for me was my one thing I can hang my hat on.
My most important question from this is, if Cam Ward and Aaron Ward are on the same team, what nicknames do you guys have? Because you're both Wardo.
Okay, I'm not going to lie. We started an alumni association, and I'm around him for all the away games. We go to these viewing parties. I'm kind of jealous that everybody just gives him Wardo and people just call me Aaron. Like, what the fuck? What happened to seniority? Like, I'm supposed to. I had it first. Like, right. Squatters' rights. Like, what the hell's going on? So it's a weird thing. So he also put Wardo on his mask. So I don't know if that was his claim. Therefore, it's his. But I make jokes that he's my son if I was really fun in high school.
Hey, Wardo, Cam Ward, I'm trying to remember back. He didn't even start the playoffs. You guys went in with, he wasn't
Gerber.
your starter. It was Darth Gerber.
So the crazy part about that is that Gerbs was fantastic all year. And we started out with Montreal, and when we get to the rink, we kind of knew he wasn't feeling well, but it was the outright flu. And Gerbs would not give up the net. So he goes in Game 1, we lose, and there's the erratic bonk where he bounces one in. And we're a little bit timid about how we're going to approach Game 2. They let him take the net in Game 2, and we lose again. So we're now 2-0 going back to Montreal. And Cam takes the net under all the pressure of his team needing him, under all the scrutiny of coming to a major Canadian city to play a game. And let me tell you, Montreal at that time was frothing because we've had a pretty good season. Buffalo and Ottawa were really good in 2006, and so were we. And Montreal was kind of a little bit way down. So being up 2-0, there was it was like a carnival atmosphere there with the media and everybody. And if you know him, the demeanor is so even keel, right? He's just the same way all the time. And it's not a criticism. It's actually such an endorsement of who he is. We had a 5-on-3 and I was in the penalty box in one of the games and he dives across, saves the puck. He had no business saving it. And that was the moment. Not only did he save my bacon, but for me, I was like, holy shit, we're going to do this with this kid. Like that for me was like, he's unflappable, unfazable. He wants this. He's going to take it. No matter what happens or what he's approached with, he's going to own it. And he just took off from there. So you're right. Gerbs had the net. And I'm not even sure if we pulled Cam at any point in any of the playoffs at that run.
Crazy.
So what do you do with the cup on your day with the cup?
Same thing as I always have. Like, so I got it when I was younger and I resigned myself to appreciating it more in 06. So did the same things, but I trimmed down how I did it. So cup comes in the morning. I went and took it to some people that have done right by me, like some businesses, not like I was bartering it, but like if someone took care of me or I go somewhere for breakfast all the time, I'd take it in there. I took it to Children's Hospital. So I actually had it when I was in Carolina. I had it back in Michigan. So I took a U of M Mott Children's Hospital and then I throw a party. And I learned the hard way in Detroit that if you invite 400 people to your small gathering, you spend your entire night up there with a cup smiling because people want to commemorate the cup with you and that you being out there. So it's the most miserable experience you ever had. So I trimmed it down in 06 and I at least cut it in half.
Nice.
Did you eat anything out of the cup?
Good question. Nothing memorable. I don't think so. I took pictures. I put my kids in it. I had my middle daughter at the time was newly born, so we had pictures taken with her in the cup and did that kind of stuff. But I didn't do anything crazy. I think when I first had it when I was in Detroit, it definitely slept in bed. I woke up and the cup was beside me.
Very good. Okay, I'm gonna just a couple of questions before I let you go. Speaking of this current team of Carolina, will they make it to the final, and do they win the Stanley Cup? And there was news today. Is Teravainen going to be back soon?
Teravainen's out of a non-contact jersey. I don't know what that means for him though. Where he'll slot in. If you're to ask me this question, if Svechnikov was not injured, I'd be like, absolutely, this team has a fighting chance to do it. I'm still timid about making any declarations that they can do it because the goaltending for me is not resolved. I mean, at some point in the New Jersey series, they were considering putting Ranta in there. He just didn't feel well, so Anderson got the net. Bobrovsky, the way he's playing, I would tip the scales in favor of Florida. The decor in Carolina, lights out. 31 teams around the National Hockey League would take that decor. They're amazing. And there's guys on there that get forgotten, like Brady Shea, who should get his just due. He's an amazing player beyond Slavin, Pesci, Burns, and Goss Despair, and Chatfield. They're outstanding. Front end wise, this is where they lean on who their coach is and the identity the coach has created for them, because they're not going to get away with a run and gun style game without Svechnikov in there and him attracting some attention. Aho is not going to get free. You've got to rely on what has gotten you here, and that's the likes of Natchez and Nason and Martinook. That stylistically, this team dumps the puck most of the National Hockey League into the zone. They create most of their offense off those dumps, and they played to that style religiously, and they can't get away from it playing against Florida. And that's for me is the key. I think this Carolina team can do it, but I'm not. Again, I'm a recovered gambler. Truth, I wouldn't put money. Wouldn't bet on hockey to begin with, but I would not put money on Carolina to win it.
Yeah. You played with Rod Brindamore. You were coached by Paul Maurice. They're going to go head to head. Who's the better coach?
Oh my God. You're an asshole.
Yeah.
Are you even allowed to ask that? You can't ask. Bobby, come on.
Yeah.
York, help me out here. You can't do that.
That's a tough one, man.
You've done your homework, Wally, and now
Ready?
I kind of want to know too. But
bring in the heat now, Wally. I like it.
Here, so I'm going to say this way. I'm going to qualify it, and I know this clip's going to get out. I'm going to say, given the performance of his team to this stage, I got to go with Paul Maurice for fact that his team figured out tactically and identity-wise how to beat the best team in the longest time in the National Hockey League in Boston, then coming back and beating Toronto. And so currently, I would say Maurice has that in his favor.
So Paul Maurice is the better
done.
coach.
I didn't say that. I said for his team. I am trying to couch this as best I can.
This is why I didn't start the interview with this question. Finally, as we have a live chat going, Meow the What wants me to ask you if any Ray Whitney stories.
Oh my God.
Oh.
So when I just said summer teeth, all my analogies are stolen from Ray Whitney. Like everything that comes like, so and one time we're sitting on the bus and he's talking about, was it Christoph Olawa? I can't remember exactly who it was. He goes, yeah, the guy's got blue eyes. I'm like, he doesn't have blue eyes. He goes, yeah, he does. One blue this way, one blue that way. I was like, oh my God.
Those are now called, those are dad jokes.
I lived with him in Gazer. I lived up in Gazer Ranch with him, and I had to retire from Gazer. But that guy had me in stitches many nights at the tree bar and on the golf course. And his one-liners are the best I've ever been around as well.
I heard he's Wardo. Have you ever played with Silly Mike Solinger?
I played with him a little bit.
I heard him and Ray.
Those two are buddies, I think.
They're two friggin' peas in a pod. Those two. They have all the golf connections, all the one-liners. Just two beauties.
So the amazing part about Ray was he's the only player I ever played with that was invited into the coach's room for his opinion. He literally in 06 was our power play coach in some capacity. He would go out there and say, we can't do this. And we were like, God, he's got clock weights for balls to be walking. But he didn't give a shit. And it was amazing. But yeah, in terms of the funniest guy I've ever played with, like dropping a one-liner, whether he knew you or you guys are out to dinner and some Yahoo comes by and gives it to you, he would it would be a mic drop moment. He would put that guy in his place and it was amazing. So probably the funniest guy I ever played with.
Nice.
What is the reaction like of the Ottawa sale outside of Ottawa?
Well, if you're going to get close to $1 billion, we need to start expanding to Houston and Oklahoma City. Like, let's be honest. If you've got that many potential buyers, here's the thing. I kind of know some of it, like truth, and it's not and I'm from Ottawa, so I don't think this is an indictment. I would love to see the arena come more downtown. So it's more of a experience. I live it here in Carolina. Like literally you go to PNC Arena. If you've been to a Canes game, there's a football stadium that's empty and nothing around it but a parking lot. So what they've done is created like tailgating, and that's what they do. There's no nightlife, there's no atmosphere, there's no nothing. I think that's one of the things to elevate the experience for the Ottawa fan. I think bringing it more downtown where the other businesses can benefit from it. I think there's also more of a brand loyalty. If you bring it downtown and people do more around it, even if they're not at the game, but the Sens game's going on and there's traffic and excitement, I think that's a great thing. But around people, I think people are just more interested in how Ottawa became the mecca of like celebrity ownership. Like, did Snoop Dogg even know about Ottawa prior to his putting his name in? Like, let's be honest. Unless there's a strand of weed called Ottawa, he doesn't know about Ottawa.
No, that's why he loves Ottawa, because hey Wardo, if you go downtown to the Byward Market now, all you can smell is weed. That's why he likes it here. He came to Blues Fest here. I came and saw him. He was outstanding. He's on the record though, big fan of Ottawa.
Well, so he's a big fan of hockey. Like, in truth, I mean, we need all the diverse fans we possibly can have. And I think it's even better that if you get diverse owners into ownership, then we have different perspectives, different ideas, especially, I mean, I think it's great. Ottawa clearly is a viable franchise. I think it creates some excitement having someone like that associated, even more so.
I'm going to say finally, but I keep saying this, there's a debate on the internet right now about the top 4D in Ottawa and whether or not this group is better than Chara, Redden, Phillips, and Volchenkov. So whether it's Sanderson, Shabbat, Chychrun, and Zub. Wardo, you played against that Ottawa top 4D back in the day. How would you sum up playing against them?
I'm not going to walk out of it, but I'm going to say this: that the list you just gave don't have the same level of experience as the older guys and Phillips and Redden and Chara. Like when you're talking about those guys, the body of work over time, I think about their best. I think we'd have to compare apples to apples at the stages of their career. Can they be? Absolutely. I think it's like an amazing coup that they pulled off to get Chychrun out of Arizona. To listen to all the teams that wanted that guy and to watch him play, I think he brings a level of stability and honestly relieves some of the pressure that always falls in Shabbat, right? Yes. Sanderson's coming up, right? He's raising up, but Shabbat has been the longest guy, and he's proven that he's been able to be all the things Ottawa ever needs from a defenseman. I'm interested to see what happens when he doesn't have to be that guy, when he doesn't have to play McDavid, Draisaitl level minutes every single night, because in order to win, you got to have Shabbat out there a ton in the third period to generate that offense. Now with Chychrun, he's going to stabilize so much back there for everybody. It'll be interesting to see how it goes. But again, comparing them two different, and here's the other thing, those guys far more mobile than the older guys we mentioned. I mean, it's amazing to watch defensemen nowadays. They've got to be like forwards. Like the idea that you have to possess the patience to you have to be Bobby Ryan on the back end. You have to hold the puck nowadays as a defenseman and be able to rag it skill-wise in order to buy time for people to get to the places they need to be. It's not the day of off the glass and out anymore because you're not going to play.
There's still room for a guy like Radko Gudas in the game. How about him on the winner?
Oh,
he created the whole goal.
Is he not he can never go to Toronto. Two reasons. One, because everybody in Toronto currently thinks that the league's against them. Someone's going to come up with a conspiracy theory that Radko Gudas, on behalf of the league, was holding his stick. Two, the optics of yelling at a guy who just got sent off for summer looks really bad. So Gudas is like, there's going to be a T-shirt coming out, I'm pretty sure, soon. The amazing thing about Gudas, if you talk to the people in Florida, he got a lot of attention. So what I do for an everyday job is I work for the company that does the player and puck tracking. So I work for SMT, and I work in the analytics, and I also work in the broadcast technology. In working the analytics, I will tell you, Gudas, and this might come as a surprise, is a highly valuable member to that team. He's improved his game, incredibly stable. If he could just get out of that once in a while stupid decision he makes that costs his team. But here's the thing, that's part of his fear factor, right? If he's unpredictable, you give him his space, and that's kind of where he's got his niche on the team.
Well, didn't he take out in Philly, his own teammate, Sean Couturier? He blew out his knee.
He's got more highlights of like kneeing, punching, elbowing, like hitting from behind, cross checking, like it's. But somehow it's never so far over the line that it's like a ban. It's just like maximum allowable by the league. That should be his nickname. Radko maximum allowable by the league. Gudas.
He's paid a couple of bucks in fines. Are the Ottawa Senators a playoff team next year? Aaron
I do believe it. I believe, but health, right? So I felt like there was moments if you watched it, and clearly News and Norris didn't help you. You also have to see, like, before you answer that question, there's too much with a draft coming up and teams up against the cap right now, and you might be able to steal someone or pick a carcass of a team that is like jammed against the salary cap. It'd be interesting to see what Ottawa can mine out of other teams from a veteran standpoint to add to what they have. But they've got a highly talented young core up front that, same as where Buffalo was, you're starting to see them evolve. I think Ottawa's about to take the same path. Guys are going to figure out who they are. They're going to get used to playing in the National Hockey League, how they have to play, and then they'll get more consistency in their game. And as we spoke, that D-core is going to allow those forwards to make some mistakes that come with youth.
I'll end it there because I kept you.
I'm gonna have to get up
twice as long.
I'm gonna have to get up and stretch soon. Jeez.
That's what happens
We
when you
invited
blow this
Aaron
guy
Ward on.
here.
We all aged. We all had a birthday while he was talking.
Hey man, it's under contract that I have to work 2 to 3 hours a week, and I'm getting overtime.
Oh,
right now, and
fucking
I'm
Wally
very
and his
excited.
one more
But
questions.
I do it all
At
day.
least
I'll be doing the
at
next
least
show by
Wardo's
myself.
bringing it. Yeah. At least Wardo's
Wardo,
bringing the good
thank you.
stories.
Anytime.
Thank you.
Good to see you, bud.
It's
Great
been.
to see you,
I've
Wardo.
appreciated you. So take care, my friend. There goes Aaron Ward, who's an absolute beauty, and I've still got another page of questions to ask. So we'll have him back on because I know you two.
Hour 20. And I think Wardo.
Okay.
You just wind him up and he just goes. Eh?
Yes.
He's like
he called me
talking.
It's just run away with the mic every single. I was timing.
So
him.
I'm going to tell you.
Incredible.
I reached out to him and I said, "Hey, I'd love to have you on to talk, whatever." He called me twice to tell me stories that he had. He's like, and I got this story, so I knew it was going to be good. So we will have him back on for a few more things. Quickly before we go, gentlemen, it's a Game 7 tonight against Dallas and Seattle to finish out the setting up the conference final. Who wins Game 7? And by the way, we all picked Dallas, if I need to remind you.
Oh, I'll defer to Wally first since he got the regular season win.
So I will say right now, I've picked all 3 winners of the conference final teams so far. I am going to. I think Seattle's going to win, but I'm going to stick with Dallas. I'm hoping Dallas tonight can pull it off. But Seattle,
I'm thinking the same. I Ottinger here. You see that 6 stat on Ottinger? After he gets pulled, his record's something like 8-0. Like he doesn't lose after he gets pulled. I still think Dallas gets it done. But man, is Seattle. They are so fun to watch. But I'm sticking with Dallas. Ottinger factor.
All right. I have to. I'm going to go with the Kraken. I'm going to take them. Why not? Just to go against the grain.
I hope they win. I'd love to see them win. I'd love to see it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then everybody would say that the NHL fixed it to have expansion teams playing in the Western Final, of course.
Here's the thing.
Every time I turn around, there's a conspiracy theory that the NHL entry, the draft, the lottery was not rigged. Let me just quickly explain. No. In order to do a half-hour show, all that stuff has been predetermined. The balls have all been done. All that stuff has been organized. It's all been finalized. The show itself is just a show to tell you who's going where. You don't think Kevin Weeks has all the info in his hand beforehand so he can pick the one team as opposed to finding 12 different let me see here.
What?
Oh yeah, Carolina picked 3rd last year. Like it's nonsense to me.
I thought he knew all those facts off the top of his head after each team was getting to like it was so scripted.
Like,
no,
how do people not understand that part is scripted? Everybody knows that's what all the people there know what's going to happen. That's just the show part. Anyway.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm done. Same with the goal in Toronto, but that's another conspiracy against the Leafs because the league wouldn't want to have Toronto in the National Hockey League final.
Yeah.
Could you imagine?
Yeah.
So speaking of Toronto, and I tweeted this out after they lost, have we seen the last of that, heard the last of that stupid Hall & Oates goal song? Like they're not coming back with that for another year, are they? Well, I think it's Shanahan's.
Depends
it's
on
Shanahan's
gotta move on.
song. It's Shanahan's favorite song, right? Like he's like that's the only reason they do it because he loves it. But that's like, what's the odds? We got to do a Patano on that. There's no way that song's back. Like, come on, it's a losing song.
No, it's got no.
Done.
Well, so Gloria. You two are players. Would you want to hear it?
Fuck no. That song should never be played again.
No.
Never.
I agree.
Finally, I just would like to get some help from you two, maybe some advice for Mother's Day. I thought I had a card in my desk. I put it off signing it and getting it organized. And on the morning of Sunday morning, I went to sign it. I made breakfast, beautiful breakfast. And it's a birthday card. So I didn't have a Mother's Day card. And I'm just curious of what you two think I should do to maybe smooth things over.
Well, here's how the conversation should, like, you offer an apology, but you also say it could have been a get well soon card. So I was at least on the positive side of things. So you got that going for you. But outside of that, I think you gotta go to the third grade route and hand make one.
Yeah. Handmade
Is
card.
it too late?
And
Yeah.
yeah, it's probably too late. But here's what you do. You take her for a spa day at that new spa across the bridge there. What's it called? Cato or something. It's a brand new. No, it's a miniature version of Nordique, but it's it's actually right down the street from the Royal Ottawa Golf Club. And Wally, they got one of the best sushi restaurants in there. Go do a spa day, hot tub, steamer, little sushi after. All be forgotten.
And then going forward, I ordered about 25 cards for different various reasons and put them and they're in my drawer. So every time my girlfriend's over, I can just pull from the well, whatever's coming up. I'm stocked.
That's a veteran move.
Yeah, and then you got to get cards that the insides are. Yeah, the inside has to be blank though, so it's not a generic message. You got to go from the heart, man.
Okay, I'm going to use this advice. So we will see you. Oh, by the way, Thursday's show, we have a former senator. Do I tell you or not? Eric Greiba. Eric Greiba will be on the show.
Grimes. All right, I like it.
So he's excited. So we're going to have him on Thursday live. So we will see you Thursday, 3 p.m. Thanks, guys, for the extra overtime, Bobby. I apologize. You'll have a half day the next one, okay?
Beautiful.
See you, boys.
See you, gentlemen.
See you guys.
Coming in Hot is brought to you by Botano.ca. Please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel to never miss an episode.